Good afternoon and welcome to the meeting of the Perth and Kinross Licensing Committee. I'm Bailey Mike Williamson, convener of the committee, and I'm joined by my vice convener, Councillor Ian McPherson. I'm also joined by other members of the committee alongside Moyna McLaren, who's Deputy Clerk and Solicitors of the committee, Shona Meeke and Karen Engelberts, Licensing Enforcement Officers, and Jessica Gill, Clerk to the committee. Can I now ask the clerk to confirm, are there any apologies received for this afternoon's meeting and to confirm attendance of those in the chamber and online, please?
Thank you, convener. We have formal apologies from Councillor Reid. I'm not aware about Councillor Frampton. Has she submitted apologies to you? No. Okay. She's not present. We've got one member online, I think Councillor Harvey. No. Okay. Councillor Harvey's doesn't seem to be online either. So we have apologies from Councillor Reid. Oh, okay. Councillor Frampton has now joined us, and I'll submit apologies for Councillor Harvey. Thank you.
Okay, can I now ask if there are any declarations of interest in respect of the business on the agenda?
Convener, I've got a declaration of interest on item 4.
Are there any further declarations of interest? If there are no further declarations of interest, can we agree the minute of the licensing committee held on the 13th of November 2023? Could I ask if Gavin Roberts and Cecilia Whitehead are brought into the meeting? And I take it, Ronnie, you'll be leaving this at this point. Okay, good afternoon. My name's Councillor, should I say, Bailey Michael Williamson. I'm joined by my vice convener, Ian McPherson, who's on my right here, and Moyna McLaren, who's Deputy Clerk and Solicitor to the committee. Okay. Members, we're moving on to page 4 now, which is a grant of a short-term license. Members, this application is on page 11 onwards in your document pack. For this item of business, we are joined in the chambers by the applicant, Mr. Gavin Roberts, and the objector to the application, Miss Cecilia Whitehead, who's accompanied by her husband. I'll now hand over to Moyna McLaren, who will introduce the report. And do we need to consider whether we're going to take the objection?
Yes, this is This is an application for a 3-year short-term let license, and it's been brought before the committee just because there is, an objection, and the committee will have to first consider, because the objection was lodged out with the 28-day time limit for lodging objections. Firstly, the committee will have to consider whether to accept the objection, and thereafter, if they do accept the objection, they have to then consider the application in light of what's said by the objectors.
I ask if members of the committee are prepared to listen to the objection? Yep. Okay. I will now ask Ms. Whitehead to provide details of your objection.
Thank you. The terms of the objection are basically that the positioning of a spa within the property means that the majority of people who are short-term letters there are party goers, and the party goers make a huge amount of noise in the whole time that they're there. They're not normal holiday makers. They don't go away to places. They spend the entire time in the spa. And I can play a recording of one such noise if you require me to, but in actual fact, it precludes my enjoyment of the garden. It prevents me from enjoying my house because I can hear it in every room in my house, and it prevents me from sleeping in the evening because it continues at some points up until 3:30 in the morning. Sometimes it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning when there is a hen party on. That there is no respite from the noise from the premises unless there are no letters within it.
Do members have any questions for Ms. Whitehead? Councillor Braun.
Thanks, convener. Thank you for the your presentation. You said people there. What's the average number of people there at any one time? Would you say?
Usually 6.
And you talked about time, but is it tend to be the hot tub is used in the later part of the day and into the evening, or is it all day long? How does that work out?
If it's a party, it's usually from early evening until very late, in the sometimes early morning. If it's a family, it can be from 8 o'clock in the morning through till 11 o'clock, depending on if there's children or not. Usually it's a party, and usually it's between tea time and early morning. And weekends. At weekends, I should say.
Okay, and when it's like a family with children, that tends to be reasonably subdued. There's not too much noise.
There is still noise, children laughing and screaming and jumping up and down into the pool, so it is constant, but it's not as bad as loud music and singing and shouting as it is when it's party goers.
Thank you. Thanks.
May I ask if Ms. Whitehead, if the police have been notified about this disturbance?
Police have been called out once. It wasn't myself that did that. I am ex-police and I wouldn't do such a thing until I've gone through all the other avenues, as I'm doing now. If I need to call the police, I will do, but they have much better things to do.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Stewart.
Can I ask, how long have you lived in your property? How long have you lived in your property?
We've lived there for about 10, 12 years now.
And in your letter, you gave quite a lot of examples of behaviours that you're coming across. How long has that been going on for?
That's been 2 years now since the property was turned into a short-term let. Prior to that, there was building works when they were building the property, and before that it was empty ground. At the very beginning, it was a garage.
Thank you.
Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitehead. You note in your complaint that you say that there are occasionally normal holiday makers. I wonder, could you put that into sort of a percentage in terms of how many of the lets are problematic and how many are these sort of quote normal holiday makers? Thank you.
The vast majority of them are party goers. I would say probably 10%. 10% would be the normal holiday makers.
Thank you. And are you saying that sort of 90% of the party goers, every one of those are problematic?
The majority are, yes.
And sorry, but again, could you put a percentage on that when you say majority?
I would say 99% of the actual party goers are a problem.
Councillor Allen, followed by Councillor Braun, and I need to come back in with a supplementary question.
Thank you, Convener. Mrs. Whitehead, you've said in your letter of objection that you've spoken to the applicant a number of times. Can you just share with us some of those interactions and why you were unsatisfactory with them? Thanks.
We pointed out that the noise that was happening, I even volunteered to play some of the recordings to him, but he didn't want to hear them. We told him that it was unacceptable, and the response was, on one occasion, I remember it was, "That's just holiday makers for you." The sort of, "Ha ha, that's just holiday makers for you."
You've also made mention of the fact that you were given a contact number should any particular hostile event be repeated. Have you used that number?
I have not used that number as yet. That was from the holiday company. On one particular occasion, it was so bad, I was out there at 3:30 in the morning shouting at them basically to be quiet because we couldn't sleep. I complained to the holiday company who volunteered the number. A guy called Carlos from the call centre, who was a supervisor, said if I was to ring that number, should such an occasion occur again, on that occasion I was actually physically attacked. Couldn't get to me for over the fence, but I was lunged at, and I was told if such occasion occurred again, they could have the people removed. I haven't actually had such a bad occasion since. There's been noise, but I haven't actually been physically attacked again.
Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Convener. Just wanted to clarify about music. Is there always music being played, or is it just tend to be people shouting and laughing?
Mostly there's music as well. They have poolside speakers which are attached to Bluetooth, and it's usually Bluetooth music that's played at the pool.
So I heard you mentioned earlier that the police had been called, but not by yourself. Do you know who did call them?
I do, but I'm not prepared to say who because that person did not want to be mentioned.
Are there any further questions for Ms. Whitehead? Councillor McPherson.
Mrs. Whitehead, in your letter of objection, you mentioned that there have been difficulties with things like noise and light pollution, but towards the end of your letter, you say that removal of the hot tub you're implying would somehow solve the problem. Is that a clear understanding of that?
Removal of the hot tub would reduce the majority of the problems that we have. Don't get me wrong, there are still problems when there are normal holiday makers there with noise, but they would be acceptable because if it was a normal family, you would get noise from them on occasion that was unacceptable. But the hot tub seems to attract a type of clientele that is there purely to party. Oh yeah, there are conversations that we can hear clearly because of the way that the sound is thrown across to my house, and the conversations are frequently of a sexual nature and totally unacceptable to what I want to hear. I'm not listening, but I have to hear it because if I'm in the garden, there is no escaping you can hear the words clearly. So it's a conversation I don't want to hear. And it's because of the hot tub that these conversations are taking place.
Okay, thank you. And do you think if the hot tub was moved to a different part of the garden, would that ameliorate the situation?
There is no other place the hot tub could go. The garden is not large enough to get anything else in.
Are there any further questions for Ms. Whitehead? No further questions. Ms. Whitehead, would you consider, if the committee was so minded to put in, if we put in a curfew, what would your opinion on the use of the hot tub? What would your opinion be on that?
The owner of the premises has already stipulated on his paperwork within the property that the noise should be suspended from the hot tub by 10:30. It's very frequently that the partygoers don't even go into the hot tub until 10:30. 10:30, I suppose, is reasonable, but even then it would preclude me from enjoying my garden during the daylight hours.
If there are no further questions for Ms. Whitehead, I'd like to invite Mr. Roberts to provide details of the application and respond to the objections.
Hello. Yeah, first of all, I haven't received any voice recordings from the clients. They've only ever spoken to me once about it, and that was a number of years ago. What I've got in front of me here, I've got evidence of where the hot tub is. I have a guest book from the holiday cottage, which I have marked, which all represent families which enjoy the hot tub, which I would say 80% of the holiday makers that come to the holiday cottage is families. You do get occasionally as you said, hen do's and that, but when the cottage was first put up, there was I think it was 2020. For some reason there was a lot of hen do's that quarter of the year, but since then we have put the price up considerably, and that has cut out that sort of clientele because we don't want that either. As the cottage is more aimed at families. I have screenshots of the book. I have screenshots of messages saying that the neighbour, Whitehead, we've had an encounter with the neighbour who have put a note on our car, and she came out and was very rude, stating it is not the residents' problem about parking. I provide 2 car parking spaces at the cottage for the families. Occasionally, some people have free cars which park out on the public road, not their road, the public road, which again, she's been very rude to clients of the hot tub. There's other lasting memories in the book of, again, the neighbour, Whitehead, running a stick up and down the wooden fence here to keep at 8:30 at night. It's all in the book about the noise level at 8:30. This is a hot tub. This is my property and this is their property. As you can see, if you are in the hot tub, they can't see you. They have no windows on the back end of the house. And at the other end of the hot tub, it's a farm. So there's constant noise from the farm. At the back of the fence, there's chickens. North Bridge Street, where the 2 properties are based, it's a road in and out of Crieff. There's constant noise all the time. And before the house was built, sorry, there was a hedge. There was a hedge up here, which we have taken out at cost to me because they didn't want to pay half of it, and I put a 6-foot fence up right around the whole property for my privacy, for my guests, and also their privacy for their own garden, which was done at a cost to me. Yeah, I don't know what else. Any questions?
Could I maybe ask the first question? What protocols do you have in place if the neighbours do have complaints about the noise within whose? How does that work? It's so.
If any of the neighbours have a problem, which I have said to them, they should give me a phone directly, and I will go and see the holidaymakers if there is a case for that. But nobody has ever phoned me once from any neighbours, from the farm at the back, from the next door neighbours, and from the next door neighbours up the street. Nobody has ever phoned.
Sorry, do you live locally?
I stay in Comrie. I used to stay locally in Crieff.
Are there any questions for Mr. Roberts? Councillor Stewart.
How many bookings a year does your property have?
So last year, that is the table, it is 51, it's booked 51 Saturdays out of 52. So it's very busy, very popular family cottage. This year it's sitting at around 25% booked already.
And just to follow up on that, is that a major selling point, is the hot tub of your property?
It is one of the major ones. Also, we allow pets and the location of the cottage in the town. That seems to be what the people write in the guest book.
Robertson.
Thank you, convener. What actions would you consider taking to try and improve the difficulties that your neighbours seem to have with the use of the hot tub in your property?
Well, I will put bigger signs up and a better sign up to make sure that people are out the hot tub at an agreed time. And I will also, what I do is when the guests have to email me for the information of the cottage, for the key safe and whatnot, and in that email I will put to them in writing that they need to be out of the hot tub within a certain time, because for them to get the information from me, they need to sign a disclaimer to for the insurance of a hot tub, so they don't wreck it or anything like that. They need to sign that to me to get my information to get into the cottage. So if they sign that, then I can at least go back to them. If they are troublemakers or noise, if they are making noise, I can go back to them and say, no, you signed this, you need to leave, or you need to get in the house, or.
Councillor Allen.
Hi, Mr. Roberts. In your deputation there, you suggested that you put the price up because the price wasn't attracting the right clientele. I don't know necessarily that is correct. I think it would be far easier for a party of 6 young ladies to give you £100 each than a family to give you £600. So I didn't quite follow that. You suggested that there had been no reason for people to call you. How do you feel when you hear that the police have been called to that premises? Is that something that's of a concern to you?
Well, just back to your first point, the reason it was cheap because it was a newish holiday cottage, and obviously as the age of the cottage goes and you get more feedback when the price goes up. That's what was sold to me from cottages.com, who actually manage the property. But yes, when you hear things like this, it's disappointing because it is one of my businesses, and I wouldn't. Yeah, well, yeah, it's disappointing to hear that.
Mr. Roberts, could I ask if the police have been called, or have the police contacted you regarding the concerns from the neighbours?
Yeah, I don't have any evidence or any information from the police. Nobody has contacted me direct, no. And none of our neighbours have said anything.
Are there any further questions for Mr. Roberts? Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, convener. How many times have you had to attend the property personally about unruly behaviour?
None.
Councillor Frampton.
Complaint was made to the holiday booking company. Have you heard from the booking company regarding the complaints?
No, I haven't, no.
Are there any further questions for Mr. Roberts? There are no further questions for Mr. Roberts. Could I invite Ms. Whitehead to sum up, please?
First of all, I have no contact telephone number whatsoever to get in touch regarding the holiday cottage. I am aware that there is a telephone number on the side of his plumbing business van, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to ring that with regard to the holiday cottage. Other than that, I have no contact details of the owner of the holiday cottage whatsoever, so I couldn't do that. With regards to the complaint to the holiday company, the supervisor, Carlos, told me that he would ring Gavin himself, and I was actually holding on a line when he said he was ringing him, and at that point, funnily enough, I was on the road and Gavin drove past and took a phone call, so as far as I'm concerned, he did get that phone call, because shortly afterwards Carlos rang me back to say he'd spoken to him. Anything else? The other thing about with regards to my being rude to some of his clients, I did put a note on one of the cars recently who was parked on the path directly outside my front door. I couldn't access with large items to my own front door, and I did take the note off because I saw him and spoke to him personally. I'd like to say categorically I was not rude. I was perhaps direct, but I was very much not rude. Somebody parked in front of my front door, obstructing my front door. I think I've got every right to say you shouldn't be doing that. It's not the first time, and they have left their cars outside my front door for the whole weekend. So that was my access to my own front door restricted for the whole weekend whilst they were in there partying. Oh yeah, it was actually Christmas and my own guests couldn't get to the front door.
Thank you. Could I invite Mr. Roberts to sum up, please?
The Whitehead does have my contact details, because I have been in their house before sorting little problems of plumbing work, so they do have my contact details. It's the same number. I only have one number, and they have my email address because I'm giving my business card. In regards to the car, there are cars parked half on the road, half on the pavement from my entrance to the cottage right down to the bridge every day of the year, day and night. If anyone was to drive down there just now, there would be cars there. And it says, so regarding of my customer parking outside their house is just incorrect. And it says she was quite clear on the text messages that I have here. She was very rude, and it isn't the first time she's been it. She has done it to our customers of the cottage.
Mr. Roberts, do members wish to adjourn for further discussion? Okay. Would members online please move to the private breakout session? Thank you. Is everybody online? Ken, you're there, I can see you. Keith, you ready? Okay. Okay, so my motion is to grant the application for a short-term license for 1 year, subject to the following condition: that the garden, ground and/or hot tub is not to be used for socialising or amplified music by short-term guests after 10 p.m. each day of the stay. Okay, thank you.
I will second that motion.
Are there any other motions? If there's no other motion, then the amendments, motion's carried. Okay, could I advise all those present and online that we have now come to the end of the public session of this meeting, and we'll now be moving into. Have we? Okay.
But I don't think the objector's here.
The objector isn't here, but because of what he disclosed in his written objection after the last meeting, it was significantly redacted to protect him and his circumstances and his identity. So this is why the decision was made to hear it in private this time. If the committee do want to hear it in public, you all need to agree, but it means the paperwork would then become public again as well.
Okay, members, are we happy to move into private session for this paper? Have we got, okay then. So I would like to advise members, all those present and online, that we've now come to the end of the public session of this meeting, and we'll now be moving into private session for the remaining items of business.